It's championship week, and hopefully your lineup is locked in, ready to go, and you're just waiting for the dust to settle on week 17 to see if you're a fantasy champion or not. But if it isn't the case for you and you have some tough start-sit decisions, maybe these 10 keys can be the difference between winning or losing. And here we go again. The first key you need to know is 20. That was Alexander Mattison's expected fantasy points in week 16 with Sincere McCormick out, Zamir White out. Yep, once again, we are back talking about Alexander Mattison. Talked about him on this video a few times earlier in the year, and then he disappeared. But now he's back, and the Raiders have no choice but to give this guy the ball. He's a workhorse running back once again. Although Amir Abdullah is mixed in a little bit on the passing downs, but Mattison is definitely the lead back here. And he gets a great matchup this week against the New Orleans Saints. They're giving up the third highest yards per game to running backs, the third highest yards per carry to running backs, and they've allowed the most rushing touchdowns on the season. Look, it's always a little nerve-wracking and a little terrifying to have Alexander Mattison in your lineup, and there's always bust potential with this guy, but this is such a good matchup. I think if you're struggling for your RB2 slot and he's one of your choices, go ahead, give him a chance. He's got risk, but he's got upside. The next key is 57.4. That is Tyjae Spears' snap percentage over the last two games, which obviously leads the Titans' backfield. And you look at it 2 weeks ago, yes, Tony Pollard was still the lead back, got most of the carries. Tyjae Spears had that monster game all through the air, but look at it last week. Tyjae Spears not only got most of the receiving work, but he actually got 2 more carries than Tony Pollard. Now, a big part of that was because of game script. They were getting absolutely blown out, and Tyjae Spears is usually out there when they're in obvious passing situations like they were last week. But I don't think that is the whole reason here. I think Tony Pollard is much less than 100%. This guy never practices all week and then goes out there and plays because I guess he has some incentives he's trying to hit. But whatever the case, Tyjae Spears is 100% right now. Tony Pollard far from 100%. And this is a great matchup against the Jaguars. Not only do they give up the second most points to running backs on the season, but they give up the third most receptions and second most receiving yards to running backs. And that is good for Tyjae Spears, even if Tony Pollard plays, because this guy is the weapon in the passing game for this offense. And there's a chance that Tony Pollard maybe somehow finally doesn't play, or again is so much less than 100% that Tyjae Spears still gets a ton of the work. He's been great the last 2 weeks. Again, I think if you're looking for an upside RB2 with, yes, some risk, but you need that home run, go ahead, take a chance on Spears again in week 17. The next key is 23. That was Rico Dowdle's rushing yards in week 16 against a very tough Tampa defense. And you think, okay, well, he's Rico Dowdle, whatever. But the previous 3 games, he had gone over 100 rushing yards. And the previous 4 games, he hadn't had less than 80 rushing yards. But now he gets an even tougher matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles. They're allowing the second fewest points to running backs and just barely over 4 yards per carry. Unfortunately, Rico Dowdle is not the type of talent that can overcome these kind of tough matchups. Not to mention, if Jalen Hurts plays, we still don't know at this point, but if he plays, this could absolutely be a blowout where the Cowboys are completely game scripted out and not even being able to run the ball anymore. Look, Rico Dowdle will still get the touches. He'll still catch some passes. He at least shouldn't kill you this week, but man, if you have better options than Rico Dowdle, I would absolutely consider benching him this week in this tough matchup. He once again, like he was in week 16, might be a big disappointment. The next key you need to know is 19.2. That is Jalen McMillan's target share over the last 4 games. Over that stretch, he has 14 catches, 191 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And now they do get a Panthers defense that on paper has not given up a lot of points to wide receivers, but this isn't a defense I'm going to be scared of, not to mention Tampa Bay at home in this game. And you know this offense can always light people up, and I think the Panthers are a defense they can definitely light up. The last time they played, Mike Evans had a huge game. Now, McMillan did not have a big game in that game the last time they played, but he wasn't as involved in the offense then. It looks like they're trusting him more. Baker is trusting him more. Yes, he's another guy that's always risky. I mean, let's be real. Everybody on this video is risky because it's a sleepers and bust video. This isn't like a start your studs video. But if you're looking for that home run, you're looking for that upside, he's had it the last couple weeks. This matchup doesn't scare me off him. Go ahead, roll with him once again this week. Maybe he keeps it going, scores another touchdown, hits on another long play. He's definitely worth the gamble. Hey, and during this time of giving and thanks, just want to say thank you for supporting us all season long. We truly appreciate it. But we also ask in return, if you appreciate anything we've done for you, go ahead, hit the like button and subscribe. We would greatly appreciate that. The next key you need to know is 5.4. That is Cooper Kupp's total PPR points over the last 2 games, which doesn't even sound like it can be real, but here we are. It is real. And if somehow you're playing in week 17 in the championship and you've got Cooper Kupp, I totally get it if you're like, nope, there is no way I'm putting this guy back in my lineup. Totally understandable, but I do need to let you know that the Arizona Cardinals give up the 10th most fantasy points to slot wide receivers, and they've given up a touchdown to slot wide receivers in 3 straight games. And we're talking about guys like Jackson Smith-Njigba, sure, good receiver, Demario Douglas, and Adam Thielen last week. So there's definitely touchdown potential here for Cooper Kupp. There's potential for him to bounce back. The Rams are at home this week. I do like this Rams offense this week at home against the Cardinals. Again, I totally understand if you're like, nope, there is no way I can do it, right? Like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, I don't know, just quit fantasy, I guess. But I do want to let you know there is a path for Kupp this week. So if you're deciding between Kupp and maybe like waiver wire dice roll type of guys, just go ahead and roll with Kupp. This is a bounce back spot for him, but of course, there is also risk. The next key you need to know is 32. That is where the Bills defense ranks against wide receivers over the last 3 weeks. That's right, they have given up the most fantasy points to wide receivers over the last 3 games. And this week, they're going to take on the New York Jets and, of course, Davante Adams, but also Garrett Wilson, who is actually who I want to talk about in this video. Now, you look at that stretch, over that stretch of those 3 games, they've allowed 243 PPR points to wide receivers over the last 3 games. Only one of their defenses even allowed over 200 points to wide receivers over that stretch, and that is the Dallas Cowboys. Now, the Jets are at home here, and Aaron Rodgers does not care, right? There's no care in the world. They're not playing for anything. He's just out there letting it loose, chucking it. Now, sadly, most of those chucks go to Davante Adams, and it's really frustrating and annoying. I get it. I'm there with you, but look, there's enough here for Garrett Wilson this week. He does have a 20% target share over the last 3 games. It's not like he's totally invisible in this offense. There's a chance that both these guys, Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson, can have nice games. And if the Bills are able to put it on the Jets and force them, to play from behind and be throwing even more, there's even a greater chance for Garrett Wilson. Obviously, between the two, I sadly have to prefer Adams. But if you've got Garrett Wilson and you're not set at the flex position, go ahead, take a chance on him. He's got upside this week. You definitely got to like Tua's line on underdog, just half a yard. That's right, he gets 1 yard. You win that pick. Pair it with any other pick or picks you like. Easy W right out of the gate. Just make sure you join using promo code ENDGAME so you get that Tua pick plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash. The next key you need to know is 63. That is Jerry Jeudy's rank among fantasy wide receivers in PPR scoring in games where Jameis Winston didn't start. That is almost mind-boggling. I've never seen anything like this for Jerry Jeudy, for any player really. Like, you look at Jerry Jeudy's entire career. Remember, this isn't like he's a rookie or anything. He's been mostly terrible with every QB not named Jameis Winston. And sadly, Kevin Stefanski has already said if Dorian Thompson-Robinson is healthy, he's going to be the starting quarterback. The Browns apparently are in full tank mode. Assuming it's not Jameis Winston on Sunday, assuming something crazy doesn't happen between now and Sunday, and maybe they rule out DTR and Bailey Zappi, because if it's not DTR, it's probably going to be Bailey Zappi, which isn't a whole lot better. There is just no way you can put Jerry Jeudy in your lineup. He was one of the biggest busts last week, absolutely killed you. If you somehow advance with Jerry Jeudy and it's not by some miracle Jameis Winston, please, you gotta bench this guy this week. He's back to being one of the biggest busts, not only of the 2024 season, but for his entire career. The next key you need to know is 35.7. That is Chig Okonkwo's first read percentage over the last 2 games, which is second among all tight ends behind only Brock Bowers. And really, it's not even 2 games. It's a game and a half, because you go back to week 15, Will Levis started that game. He had 2 targets and a 22 first read percentage in the first half. Then they benched him, brought in Mason Rudolph. What happened? 8 targets in the second half alone and a 50 first read percentage. That is unbelievable. Even last week, he led the team with first read percentage and targets. For whatever reason, Mason Rudolph is locked into this guy right now, and he gets a great matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars this week. Chig is certainly not a sure thing at tight end, but how many tight ends even are sure things these days? If you're streaming, or maybe you got David Njoku, who's still questionable this week, we're not sure if he's going to play, go get Chig Okonkwo. He's got to be the best streaming option out there, and he's got tons of upside in week 17. The next key you need to know is 31. That is where the Detroit Lions defense ranks in terms of fantasy points allowed to QBs over the last 4 weeks. That's right, they're second worst against QBs over the last 4 games. This defense is absolutely decimated, and now they have to face Brock Purdy on Monday Night Football in San Francisco. Look, Brock Purdy has been kind of up and down this year, but If you take out that snow game against Buffalo and that rain game against the Rams, he's mostly been up. He's got weapons here with whatever Debo has left, Jennings, Kittle. Maybe he'll have Garendo out of the backfield, but I don't think it really matters. This is a game that has sneaky shootout potential because this Lions offense is rolling. The 49ers defense no longer elite. This could be a game where the 49ers are forced to throw the ball more than they want to. That's going to be great for Brock Purdy. So if you play this streaming game at quarterback and Brock Purdy is still out there, I think he's one of your better options this week. He gives you a very nice floor with a good ceiling. But if you're looking for a high upside, high risk play at quarterback, then the next key you need to know is 329. That is how many rushing yards the Giants have allowed to quarterbacks this year, which is the most among all defenses. Now they get Anthony Richardson, who's coming off a game with 70 rushing yards and a touchdown. And you look at him over the last 6 games, he has at least 30 rushing yards in every single one of those games. He has at least 50 rushing yards in 4 of those games. And he scored 5 touchdowns in his last 6 games. 5 rushing touchdowns, I should say, in his last 6 games. Look, Anthony Richardson is always extremely risky. There's always a chance he goes out there, fumbles twice, turns the ball over twice, and absolutely ruins your week. But he's also got the upside to help you win your week. So again, if you're streaming quarterback and you're in one of those leagues where there's not a lot of options on the waiver wire and you need a home run, you need upside, go take a chance on Anthony Richardson. This is a great spot for him to run for plenty of yards, maybe a touchdown or 2. Yes, he's risky, but he's got upside. And if you're still not sure about your Week 17 lineup, don't worry, we got you everything you need in our start sits here for every single position. You can find them in our Week 17 playlist right here.